You think you can just destroy my life and walk away? I didn't scream it out loud. I didn't even say it. I thought it over and over again as I stared at the screen of my phone, trying to make sense of the chaos unfolding in real time. The video was still playing. I couldn't stop watching it. Like some sick form of self-punishment. There I was, me Kaya Morel, bare-faced, hair a mess, sitting cross-legged on my bed in a hoodie. Telling my best friend everything. Crying. Rambling. Vulnerable in a way I rarely let anyone see. And she posted it. Not just posted it, edited it, captioned it, scored it with lo-fi music and ironic hashtags. Like it was some twisted episode of reality TV. Hashtag hot mess confession. Hashtag PR girl meltdown. Hashtag bestie tea spill. In the corner of the screen you could see the edge of my phone case. The photo of my dog on the nightstand. The monogrammed throw pillow my mom gave me when I moved to Charlotte. There was no doubt. This wasn't AI. This wasn't a mistake. This was me. My voice. My story. And it had over 2.7 million views in 4 hours. I couldn't breathe. I paced the length of my tiny apartment. 10 steps from the window to the kitchen, 7 steps back. Over and over, barefoot on cold hardwood. The silence was unbearable except for the constant ping of notifications. Mentions. DMs. Group chats exploding. People I hadn't spoken to in years. College classmates, old coworkers, and ex-boyfriend I blocked last summer were all suddenly very interested in my emotional breakdown. Girl, is this real? Kaya, are you okay? Tell me this is some PR stunt. Damn. Sierra really did you dirty. Sierra Delaney. My best friend since freshman year at Tulane. We lived together for 2 years in college. Took spring break trips to Tulum. Matched Halloween costumes. Shared Uber passwords and heartbreaks. She was the first person I called when my dad had his stroke. She brought me soup when I had COVID. She held my hair back when I drank too much at our agency's holiday party and cried in the hotel bathroom over that consultant I'd dated for 6 months. I trusted her. Completely. And now the entire internet knew I had slept with my ex after his engagement party. She didn't just betray me. He dismantled me. And she did it with perfect lighting and a viral-friendly hook. I tried calling her. No answer. Tried again. Sent a voice memo I deleted before hitting send. Finally I texted. Tell me this wasn't you. Please. 3 dots appeared. Then vanished. Nothing. I dropped my phone onto the couch like it burned. The worst part. I had told her about my anxiety. About how hard it was to build a career in PR when I constantly felt like a fraud. I had said those things in private because I trusted her not to turn my pain into her content. I had always been the polished one, the fixer. The girl people called when they had a crisis. Not anymore. Sierra had flipped the script. And now I was the headline. I collapsed onto the floor, back pressed against the kitchen cabinet, knees pulled into my chest. My body shook. Not from tears. Not yet. Just from disbelief. From the cold realization that someone I had loved like family had gone nuclear on me without warning. Somewhere beneath the shock, a spark ignited. It wasn't anger yet. Not revenge. Just this steady, low-burning thought. She thought this would ruin me. But she has no idea what I'm capable of. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I lay on the couch, wrapped in an old throw blanket, watching the numbers climb. 3 million. 3.4. By sunrise, 4.1 million views. The comments were brutal. She's a PR girl and still got outplayed. Embarrassing. Imagine oversharing like this and trusting a friend not to post it. Rookie move. She sounds unstable AF. And then the one that punched hardest. She deserved it. You could tell Sierra was always the real one in that friendship. I read them all. I shouldn't have. But I did. Like tearing the bandage off again and again, needing to feel the pain just to know I was still here. My work email buzzed around 9 a.m. Subject. Let's connect recent media visibility. It was from Devon, the founder of Rise Collective. My boss. A woman I respected, admired, and whose respect I had worked my ass off to earn. She was CCing HR. I didn't need to open the message to know what it meant. In PR, reputation is currency. You don't get to have a public meltdown, especially not a viral one, and still be trusted to manage other people's crises. By 10:30 I was off the payroll. No severance. No warning. Just a mutual understanding that at this time, it's best for all parties to part ways. Sierra hadn't just humiliated me. She'd nuked my entire career. And still she stayed silent. No apology. No explanation. Just a single Instagram story the night before. Sometimes people show their true colors and it's ugly. Let them. No tag. Just vague enough to be dismissible. Just sharp enough that everyone knew who she meant. She was painting herself as the victim. And people were eating it up. I needed air. I pulled on a hoodie, shoved sunglasses over my swollen eyes and left my apartment. The city was still itself. Coffee carts, honking horns, dogs in sweaters, joggers with AirPods. But I wasn't. Every time someone glanced my way, I imagined they recognized me. The girl from the meltdown video. I was a meme. A digital casualty. My phone buzzed again. A text. From Lena, a girl I'd once interned with at a media firm in Manhattan. Hey, just saw what Sierra posted. That's disgusting. You don't deserve this. I stared at it. Then another came in. If you want to talk, I'm here. I've seen Sierra do this to people before, just never someone close. And another. Little by little the narrative began to crack. Behind the scenes people were watching. And not everyone was buying Sierra's version of the story. There was more to tell. More to uncover. But first, I had to stop bleeding long enough to stand. I walked to the edge of a park and sat on a bench beneath a tree, letting the breeze cool my face. For the first time in 24 hours I stopped shaking. And then, slowly, clearly like a whisper in my ear, another thought came. You trusted her with your secrets. She used them to build a brand. Now you use her betrayal to build your next move. I didn't know what revenge would look like yet. But I knew this much. It wouldn't be loud. It wouldn't be petty. And it wouldn't be expected. It would be brilliant. I spent the next 2 days in digital exile. No posts. No replies. No statement. Silence was my only defense. And in PR, silence speaks volumes. But behind the scenes I wasn't frozen. I was building something. At first it started small, scrubbing every trace of my personal life from the internet. Locking down old accounts. Deleting posts. Changing passwords. I even wiped my Venmo history just in case. People forget how much of themselves they leave lying around. And I wasn't about to hand Sierra more ammunition. I moved through the world like a ghost. Hoodie up. Phone off. I walked the long way to the bodega. I wore sunglasses in the elevator. Kept my head down. It wasn't shame anymore. It was focus. On day 3 I opened my laptop for the first time. Not to check Twitter. Not to read the gossip forums. But to open a blank Google Doc. Title: The Anatomy of Betrayal, a case study in digital violence. It wasn't a revenge post. It wasn't even for public consumption. At least not yet. It was for me. I started writing. Not as the girl who got ruined. But as the woman who had been studied, packaged and sold without her consent. And was now reclaiming the story. I documented everything. The timeline of the leak, the edits in the video, the timestamps, the way Sierra's TikTok engagement had doubled overnight. How her follower count had jumped from 18K to nearly 70. How her pinned comment was, "I never said names. If the shoe fits, that's not on me." It wasn't just betrayal. It was strategy. And Sierra wasn't dumb. She'd studied digital virality just like I had. She knew exactly what she was doing. So I treated it like a case file. Not emotional. It was factual. But that detachment cracked when I opened my email and saw a name I hadn't expected. Zora Bennett. Zora had been my mentor during my first year at Rise Collective. A hard-edged, brilliant strategist with zero tolerance for BS and an unmatched instinct for reading a room. She left the firm a year ago to start her own consultancy in DC, and I hadn't heard from her since. Till now. Subject: They messed with the wrong woman. Text: Call me. I have an idea. When I answered, her voice cut through the static like fire. You okay? No. Good. Then you're ready. I didn't ask how she knew. I didn't have to. Zora was the kind of woman who could smell weakness in headlines. And she must have seen the blood in the water. I've been following this circus, she said. Sierra's playing the victim card hard, but you still have something she doesn't. What? Receipts. And credibility. I almost laughed. I got fired, Zora. You got fired by an agency that panicked because you became a story. That's not a reflection of your talent. It's a reflection of their cowardice. Her voice steadied me in a way nothing else had. You don't come back from this by hiding, she continued. You come back by flipping the spotlight around. You show people that what Sierra did wasn't just betrayal. It was digital exploitation. You frame it as the issue it is. And you make people uncomfortable with how familiar it all feels. I sat there frozen. He was right. This wasn't just my story. It was bigger. How many other women had shared something vulnerable with someone they trusted, only to be exposed when it was no longer convenient? How many stories were buried under shame and silence? Zora didn't give me time to doubt. I'm building a panel next month on digital ethics and personal branding, she said. It's small but influential. Thought leaders, journalists, academics. I want you on it. My throat tightened. You want me to talk? I want you to own what happened. And then I want you to own the room. I didn't know what terrified me more, being seen again or not being seen at all. But somewhere between fear and fury, a new version of me started to take shape. Not Kaya the PR girl. Not Kaya the victim. Something harder, sharper, unapologetic. And in that moment I made a quiet promise to myself. If Sierra wanted to go viral off my pain, I'd show her what happens when the story doesn't end where you think it does. The event was held at a boutique co-working space in DC, all exposed brick Edison bulbs and overpriced kombucha on tap. The kind of place where entrepreneurs wear sneakers that cost more than rent and everyone pretends they're not Googling each other under the table. I hadn't spoken in public since the leak. Hadn't posted. Hadn't even looked at a camera for more than a second. But tonight I stood at the front of the room in a crisp black blazer, palms flat against a podium, 30 pairs of eyes watching me. I cleared my throat. My name is Kaya Morel. You might not know me. But maybe you think you do. There was a ripple of recognition. A few exchanged glances. I saw one person subtly unlock their phone under the table. Good. Let them. I'm not here to tell you a sob story. I'm here to ask a question. I paused. Let the silence stretch. What happens when someone weaponizes your own vulnerability against you, and the internet decides that it's content? A deeper silence now. The kind that shifts weight in a room. And then I told them. Not every detail. Not names. But the shape of it. The betrayal, the video, the silence afterward. The loss of my job. The way I became something for strangers to dissect over coffee. I work in PR, I said. I've helped clients navigate scandals, misinformation, even full-on smear campaigns. But I never imagined I'd be the story. Someone in the back nodded. I scanned the room, steady now. Not shaking. Not small. Powerful. But this isn't just about me, I continued. This is about how we've normalized the public shaming of women. Especially women who overshare, who trust, who make mistakes in private and pay for them in public. A hand went up. It was a journalist from a mid-sized media outlet, The Current. She looked thoughtful, curious, maybe a little wary. So what's your goal in speaking out now? She asked. To clear your name? Set the record straight. I gave her a smile. Controlled. Calculated. No. My goal is to take back the microphone. There it was. The moment. The quiet beat of power shifting. After the panel ended, people came up. Quietly, respectfully. One woman whispered that her ex posted their texts on Reddit. Another admitted her former roommate recorded a therapy session and shared it as story time on YouTube. It wasn't just me. This wasn't a rare betrayal. It was a pattern. I left with a stack of business cards and 2 podcast invitations in my inbox before I even got back to the hotel. And that night, for the first time in weeks, I opened my own TikTok account. Not to scroll. Not to lurk. To post. I stared at the blank screen for a long time before hitting record. Hi. My name is Kaya. You might have seen a version of me online. This is the real one. I didn't cry. I didn't plead. I just told the truth. About what happened. What it felt like. And why I wasn't hiding anymore. I ended with a line I hadn't planned. You can survive being shattered. Sometimes you even come back sharper. By morning, the video had 600K views. By afternoon, 1.2 million. And the comments? They weren't cruel this time. They were furious. And they were on my side. Sierra hadn't responded. Not yet. But I knew she would. As I had just taken her weapon, attention, and turned it into my own shield. This wasn't just damage control. This was the beginning of something bigger. By the end of the week, 3 more outlets had reached out. One was a Gen Z feminist blog. One was a media law podcast. And one was a legacy magazine that had called Sierra the voice of real girl wellness just 3 months ago. I didn't say yes to all of them. I was careful. Not because I was scared, but because I had learned something important. The more you talk, the less people listen. But when you speak with intention, they lean in. I wasn't trying to trend. I was building something sustainable, controlled, layered. Sierra, on the other hand, she was unraveling. At first, she tried to keep her cool. Posted a vague TikTok about staying unbothered when people use your name for clout. But then, she slipped. Someone dug up screenshots from a Discord server she used to run. Ones where she casually mocked her followers, called them addicted to trauma content, bragged about monetizing their sob stories. It wasn't damning by itself. But in context, with her betrayal of me fresh in everyone's mind, it caught fire. Suddenly the comments on her videos weren't adoring anymore. They were suspicious. Then hostile. Wait. Is this the girl who exposed her friend? Unfollowed. Not who I thought she was. She's been exploiting people's pain for clout for years. I didn't lift a finger. That was the beauty of it. I wasn't out for blood. I wasn't dragging her name. I didn't need to. All I had to do was speak the truth about myself. And let the contrast speak for itself. Meanwhile, my own DMs were flooded. Women from all over the country. Some with stories like mine. Others just saying thank you. One girl, Aria from Portland, sent me a message I'll never forget. I thought I was crazy for feeling betrayed when my ex posted our DMs. Everyone told me I was being dramatic. You made me feel sane again. That's when I knew. This wasn't revenge. Not really. This was reclamation. And it was working. I started consulting again, quietly, selectively. A small campaign for a burnout recovery platform. A messaging refresh for a mental health nonprofit. Word spread fast that Kaya Morel was back and sharper than ever. The irony? I got better clients after being cancelled than I ever had before. Not because they pitied me, but because I understood something now that most strategists didn't. When your narrative gets hijacked, your only move is to write a better one. Louder. Truer. Unapologetically yours. And mine was just getting good. It came at 2:14 a.m. on a Sunday. Of course it did. The kind of hour where only desperation lives. When clarity blurs and bad ideas feel like justice. Sierra finally responded. A full TikTok. 3 minutes. Shaky voice. Puffy eyes. Soft lighting. I never meant to hurt Kaya, she said. I was trying to show how harmful toxic friendships can be. I didn't name her. I didn't expect it to blow up. I've received death threats. I've lost partnerships. Please, just let me move on. No apology. Just a carefully constructed collapse. She wanted sympathy. He wanted the redemption arc. She wanted me to disappear into silence so she could step back into the light. But I wasn't going anywhere. And more importantly, I had one final card left to play. Not a tell-all. Not a takedown. An opportunity. 2 weeks earlier, I'd quietly partnered with a new digital ethics nonprofit focused on protecting online privacy and consent. They were building a campaign called My Story, My Terms. They wanted a face for the initiative. A speaker. A strategist. Someone who had lived it. I said yes. We scheduled the launch to align with a major virtual summit on online safety, and the keynote would be streamed to over 400,000 people worldwide. On the morning of the event, I wore the same blazer I had worn to Zora's panel, but this time I didn't need a podium to steady me. I stood on my own. I talked about the culture of monetized pain, the epidemic of betrayal-ass content, how we'd normalized story times that ripped people open without their consent. And then I said it. I'm not here to cancel anyone. I'm here because I know what it's like to be reduced to a moment you didn't agree to share. And I want a world where we protect each other from that. The chat blew up. Comments poured in. Applause emojis. Fire emojis. A few people even tagged Sierra. I didn't. Because the most powerful revenge isn't a name drop. It's a legacy. That afternoon we launched the campaign. Donations. Press coverage. A feature in Tech and Human Rights Weekly. Within 48 hours, over 100,000 people had signed the pledge to never post someone else's story without permission. And Sierra? Her silence was deafening. She hadn't just lost control of the narrative. She had been written out of it entirely. By the following week, 3 of her brand sponsors dropped her. She posted once more, an Instagram carousel of softlit journaling and vague captions about growth. And then, she disappeared. I didn't celebrate. Not really. Because this wasn't about ruining her. It was about reclaiming me. And that was done. 6 months have passed. The noise has quieted. The hashtags faded. The headlines moved on to someone else's downfall. But I'm still here. And for the first time in a long time, I like where I am. I moved out of that cramped Charlotte apartment. Traded the skyline view for sunlight, hardwood floors, and a studio space that smells like eucalyptus and printer toner. I'm building something new. Not a firm. Not yet. Something smaller. Cleaner. More honest. A consultancy for women navigating digital fallout. Whether from betrayal, harassment, or simply being too visible in a world that loves to punish them for it. I call it frame shift. Because sometimes the only difference between shame and power is the angle from which the story gets told. Zora's on my board now. Lena helps with content strategy. We don't take toxic clients. We don't play PR spin games. We rewrite rules. We help women speak, not shrink. Every now and then someone asks me if I ever heard from Sierra again. I haven't. Not directly. But a few months ago I noticed she deleted all her old videos. She unfollowed me. Wiped her Instagram. Rebranded as a digital mindfulness coach. The irony isn't lost on me. And honestly, I don't care. She was the worst thing that happened to me. And the best thing that ever happened for me. I don't think about revenge anymore. I think about Arya. I think about the woman who cried in my DMs after her therapist used her story without asking. I think about every girl who's ever been humiliated, exposed, betrayed, and told to just move on. I didn't move on. I moved forward. There's a difference. And if I've learned anything, it's this. Sometimes the most beautiful revenge is becoming so grounded in who you are that no one can ever steal your story again. Not with a post. Not with a camera. Not with a caption. This is mine now. All of it. And I'm just getting started.